Hi there, glad to have you here. Welcome to a project video where you'll build and deploy a cryptocurrency React application. With in-depth data about all cryptocurrencies, crypto markets and exchanges, popular cryptocurrency news, and much more, Cryptoverse is the best cryptocurrency application that you can currently find on YouTube and on the entire internet. In this one video, you'll learn React best practices. You're also going to learn Redux the easy and professional way using Redux Toolkit. You're going to learn how to create user interfaces using design and how to create charts using Chart.js. But most importantly, you're going to learn how to fetch data from two different sources using RapidAPI. Essentially, you'll become the master of working with APIs. I initially planned on putting this as a paid course, but I later decided to release it completely free for you guys here on YouTube. So, to support this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It shouldn't take more than a few seconds, and I really appreciate it. Keep watching and you'll learn how to build this amazing Cryptoverse project in just one video. And don't forget, I'm also going to teach you how you can deploy it to the web so that you can share it with your friends, put it on your portfolio, and get a job. For quite some time now, I have been working on something big. I'm creating a custom platform where you'll be able to learn by creating even better and more professional projects. It'll take a long time to turn this into a reality, but I want you to make the most important decisions during the process. So, click the mailing list link down in the description so that you can stay up to date and choose which projects will be built first. Big news coming soon. With that said, let's dive straight into the video. Before creating a folder for our project code, we must first visit RapidAPI. The link is going to be down in the description. The making of this entire app is possible only due to RapidAPI because we are using their coin ranking API. This API is just one of hundreds of thousands of APIs available on their API hub. You're going to learn how to use all of the endpoints from this API, how to get different exchanges, markets, and cryptocurrencies. And finally, we're going to use one more API from their platform, which is called Bing News Search. This API is going to allow us to fetch cryptocurrency related news. So, to be able to use these APIs, make sure to use the RapidAPI link in the description, and then you can click sign up or log in at the top right. In this case, I'm going to log in since I already have the account. You can log in with Google, GitHub, Facebook, or your regular email. Once you're in, you'll be redirected to RapidAPI's hub where you can find hundreds of thousands of APIs. This was the first step in our video. Now, let's create our React application, and then later on, we're going to call these APIs right from our React application. As always, let's start by creating an empty folder on our desktop. We can name it something like Crypto App. After that, feel free to open an empty Visual Studio Code window or whatever code editor you use. Then you can simply drag and drop the empty folder into your code editor. Once you've done that, you can go to View and then finally Terminal. Inside of here, you can first clear it, and then we can run npx create-react-app and then finally type /. This is going to initialize an empty React application in our current directory. This process is going to take a few moments, so let's watch this nice loading screen, and then I'm going to be right back. And there we go. Our app has been initialized. The most important folder here is going to be the source folder, src. Inside of here, you'll see a lot of files that we don't necessarily need to use. So what I always like to do at the start is to completely delete the source folder by right-clicking and then clicking delete. And then we're going to create a new instance ourselves. Once your source folder has been deleted, simply right-click and click New Folder, and let's name it src. Inside of there, we are going to have one most important file called index.js. Our index.js is the starting point of any React application. Inside of there, you need to import React from React. We also need to import React DOM from React-DOM. And then we're going to import the app, which we're going to create soon. So you can say import app from /app. Finally, we need to run React DOM.render. And then inside of here, we need to pass this app as a component, as a first parameter. And then finally say document.getElementById root to hook our app onto our root div. Behind the scenes, this means that we have a public folder with one index.html file. Now, this HTML file looks a bit weird at the start, but if you space everything correctly, remove some comments, and even more comments, you'll notice that this is a basic index.html5 that simply has the title, which we can change now that we're here, Cryptoverse, and it only has one single div with an ID of root. Our entire React application is going to go right here inside of this div. Now that you know that, our next step is to create our starting point, which is the app.js. So just next to our source, let's create a new file called app.js. Our app.js is going to be a basic functional component. So we're going to use a quick trick to make this happen. I simply typed RAFCE and I'm gonna press enter. This is going to create a boilerplate code for us. If this didn't work for you, that means that you have to install an extension. More specifically, you need to visit your extensions tab and then search for ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native snippets. Once you have that, you'll be able to use these snippets to more quickly create often used React code snippets. Great. With that said, I'm going to use these snippets throughout the application, but if you don't like it or for some reason this is not working, you can simply type it out by hand. We have a basic import React from React. We have a const app with a return. And finally, we're doing export default app. To make sure we've done everything correctly so far, let's simply add an h1 tag and let's say Cryptoverse. If we run our code and we end up seeing this in the browser, that means that we've created everything successfully so far. So let's go back to our terminal, go to terminal, clear the console, and finally type npm start. This is going to start our application on localhost 3000. And there we go, top left corner, an H1 that says Cryptoverse. Remember, in 1 hour or in about the length of this video, you'll have the entire website build right here. And you're going to learn how to build this website and all other websites that use similar React functionalities. So let's get started. We can start by stopping the server for running by pressing Ctrl+C and then Y. We can clear the terminal one more time, and we can start by installing all the necessary dependencies. We can install the dependencies by typing npm install, and now we can start listing all of the dependencies. For styling, we're going to use ant-design, so you can simply type ant-d. Then we also need ant-design/icons for the icons. We are also going to use Redux, so you can install react-redux and add redux.js/toolkit. Then we're also going to use Axios to make API requests. We're going to use Chart.js to create charts. We're going to use HTML React parser to parse some HTML data. We're also going to use a handy little package called Millify that's going to transform extremely large numbers into readable strings. Finally, we're going to use Moment to parse times and dates. And we also need React-Chart.js-2 to render those charts from Chart.js in our React application. There we go. These are all the packages that we need. You can simply press enter, and we're gonna wait a few moments, and they are going to be installed. While the packages are installing, now might be a good opportunity to check out the JavaScript Mastery newsletter for the upcoming huge project. The link is going to be down in the description, but basically I'm creating a phenomenal new platform with even better projects that you'll be able to build. So far, I'm still in the process of building it, so feel free to just enter your email and first name so that you can stay up to date with those new projects I'm creating. Great news coming soon, and you'll be the first one to know about them. Stay tuned. There we go, all of our dependencies have been installed, and we can simply run npm start one more and final time so that we can always take a look at our changes in the browser. Once you've done that, you can simply close your terminal. We can start off by creating the general layout for our application. To do that, we're going to import a few things from React Router DOM and Ant Design. So let's import, in curly braces, switch. Then we need a route and a link. And this is going to be coming from React-router-DOM. Below that, we can import, again in curly braces, layout, typography, and also space. And this is going to be coming from Ant Design. There we go. Now we have these components we're going to use. You can delete this div, and let's create a new div. This div is going to have a class name equal to app. Just inside of there, we're going to have one more div that's going to have a class name equal to navbar. Below the navbar, we're going to have one more div, and this one is going to have a class name equal to main. This is where our main content is going to go. And finally, below that, we're going to have one final div, which is going to have a class name equal to footer. We can start from top to bottom by creating our navigation bar. And we can do that by creating a new folder in the source folder called components. This is the main folder you're always going to have in your React applications, where all of your components are going to be. Inside of there, we can create a new file called navbar.jsx. A lot of people ask me, what are the differences between the JSX and JS? Well, they're essentially the same. Simply by using .jsx and some kind of icon library, it helps you differentiate where React components are from basic JS files. With that said, our navigation bar is going to be a functional component, so we can simply run rafce. And then we're also going to import a few things from Ant Design. We can import a button. We're going to need a menu. Then we also need typography, and we're going to use the avatar. If you've never used Ant Design before, don't worry, that's completely fine. I'm going to teach you how to use it step by step. Actually, this is one of the first times for me as well that I'm using Ant Design. As you might know, I actually prefer Material UI, but I like to switch things up from time to time just to see what other options are available. So we can import these from Ant Design. We are also going to import a link from React Router DOM. And finally, we need to import a few icons. So we can say import, that's going to be home outlined. We're also going to use money, collect, outlined as well. Then we're going to use the bulb outlined, and we also need fund outlined, and finally menu outlined. There are a lot of icons, and these icons will be coming from Ant Design /icons. Great. Now that we have everything imported, we are ready to start creating the navbar. We can start off by adding a class name to this div, and that class name is going to be equal to nav-container. Inside of there, we're going to have one more div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to logo-container. Now, inside of this logo container, we're going to have a few things. First, we're going to have an avatar component coming from Ant Design. Then we're going to have a typography component, more specifically typography.title. And more specifically, it's going to be a level 2 title. I'm going to show what this means in just a second. And it's also going to have a class name equal to logo. We can close it. Inside of that, we're going to add a link component coming from React Router DOM. The link is going to point to /, and then inside of there, we can simply say Cryptoverse. Great. And the third component on our list is going to be a button. This button is going to have a class name equal to menu-control-container. And we're going to use this button on mobile devices to switch between the menus. But for now, we can simply comment it out. So we've used the avatar component and the typography title component. We've also imported some more components from Ant Design. but what that actually is and where can you find more components that you want to use. To find out, you can head to ent.design. Inside of here, you'll notice that it's a design system for enterprise level products, and you have a few examples of the apps they work with. You can go to components, and then inside of here, you can learn about all of the components they provide. They separate them into the general, layout, navigation, data entry, and so on. But as you can see, all of the components are here. So for example, if you need pagination, a page header, a dropdown, a layout, spacing, dividers, typographies, everything is going to be in here. For example, we've used the avatar component. So let's search for avatar and let's click on it. Inside of here, you can see that avatar is basically an image or an icon where you can put some source tag to display it in a circle. That's basically it. And if you click this icon, you can see the code. So whenever you're wondering what something is, or you want to do something extra with ent.design, you can just head to their website and research these components. With that said, we have to add a source tag to this avatar, and we can do that by saying source is equal to, and now we need to pass the icon. We're also going to give it the size equal to large. So where is this icon coming from? Well, we're going to create a new folder in our source folder called images. And then you can head to the description of this video and simply download the image called cryptocurrency.png. You can simply put it in your images folder and we should be good to go. We can of course import that icon at the top by saying import icon from, and that's going to be / images and then cryptocurrency.png. Great. Now let's save this and let's import this navigation bar into our app so that we can display it right here. The usual way of importing components from the components folder looks like this. You would say import, and then that's going to be navbar from, and then you can simply type / components / navbar. It's fine for 1 line or 2 lines or even 3 lines. But later on, you're going to have more components here. It's not going to be just navbar, and your code would look like this. And that's definitely not efficient or good looking. You're cluttering your view. So I'm going to show you a little trick that's going to allow you to import all of the components in 1 line. To do that, we can create a new file inside of the components folder called index.js. Inside of here, you can say import and then curly braces, default as navbar, and that's going to be coming from / navbar. This 1 line is going to allow us to import navbar in a different way. If we go here, you no longer have to do it like this. What you can do is say import, put navbar in curly braces, and then simply say / components. And now all of the components that you export from here are going to be importable like this. Navbar, we're going to have, for example, a layout. We're going to have footer. This seems really meaningful. Import navbar, layout, and footer from components. And it's also in 1 line. So that's a cool little trick that you can use in your React applications. On all of my videos, I try to teach you so many of these tips. So if you like this one, definitely make sure to subscribe because many more interesting things are coming up. With that said, let's use this navbar right here inside of our navbar div as a self-closing component. Before we go ahead and check this out in the browser, make sure to go to the components index and just change this to export, not import. I've made a typo there. Now we're exporting it from here and we can import it right here. Now let's save it and check it out in the browser. Okay, looks like we have a failed to compile error. We forgot to install React Router DOM. That's not on you, that's my bad. I simply forgot to add the React Router DOM on our npm installation list. So one more time, stop the app from running by pressing Ctrl+C and run npm install react-router-dom. This is going to install much more quickly now as it's only 1 dependency. So let's wait for that and then we're going to restart our application one more time. There we go, the package has been installed and you can simply run npm start. The app is going to be launched in your browser again and then we'll be able to take a look at our changes. Okay, we get one more error that's going to be easily fixable. I always like to keep these errors in because I want to teach you how real development looks like. It's not always going to look perfect. So to fix this, we're going to go to the index.js, and inside of here, we simply need to import. That's going to be browser router as router, and this is going to be coming from react-router-dom. So to be able to use links and other things, you need to wrap our app with the router. So right inside of here, we can add the router component, and you need to put the app component inside of it. Then that's going to look something like this. When I space it out properly, there we go. We have the router, and we have document.getElementById. Now we should be able to see our application. And there we go. We can see Cryptoverse. But this doesn't look that good yet. So let's continue adding more stuff. You might have noticed that we have some class names here. These are going to be used only for the layout and some minor styling changes. All of the main styling is going to be done specifically through endDesign. But to simply make it a bit more responsive and to simplify the process, I've included some class names like these ones. For that, we're going to create a new file called app.css. In here, you can simply paste the style sheet that you can find in the description of this video. It's going to be under a specific gist. You'll be able to find the link really easily. Again, there's no hard CSS styling here. It's mainly some variables, colors, and mobile responsiveness. Great. Now that we have that, we of course have to import it right inside of our app by saying import.app.css. Great. That's going to be it. And now we can continue with our navbar. We can get rid of this button for now because we're going to use it later on. But for now, below this div, we can create a menu. A menu is a component coming from endDesign. A menu is going to have a theme equal to dark, and inside of there, we can have different menu items. So let's create our first menu.item, and it's going to have an icon equal to, and that's going to be home outlined. We already imported it, but make sure to call it as a component with the opening component tag, and make sure to self-close it like this. This is our menu item. Inside of our menu item, we are going to have a link tag. So in here, we can say link, and more specifically, the first one is going to be 2, which is going to be equal to just /, which is our home component. Now we can duplicate this link a few more times. The second one is going to have the fund outlined icon, and it's going to go to cryptocurrencies. And of course, the 2 is also going to be 2 / cryptocurrencies with the lowercase c. Then the third icon is going to be money collect outlined. This link is going to go to exchanges. And of course, we can go to / exchanges with a lowercase e. Finally, the last thing, we can have a bulb outlined icon. And in here, it's going to point to news. And then again, / news with a lowercase n. This is going to be our menu. Let's save it and take a look in the browser. As you can see, we can see everything on the screen, but God, does it look awful. But we don't have to worry about that. We are first creating the initial layout, and then we'll worry about styling it all together. But for now, we're good. So now let's go continue with the layout of the main content. To do that, we can close all of our files besides the app.js. We've finished our navbar, and now we can move on to the main part. Inside of our main, we are going to have a layout component, which is a component from endDesign. It is not a self-closing component, and this component basically lays everything down. So that's it. We don't need to pass any params. Inside of there, we're going to have one more div that's going to have a class name equal to routes. Inside of there, we are going to have a switch component, which is coming from React-Router-DOM. A switch allows you to have multiple routes. So inside of here, you can create a route component, and that route is going to have the exact path, meaning it's only going to trigger if you go exactly to that URL, and you have to provide the path variable which is going to be just slash in this case. Finally, you have to provide a component you want to render under that route. In this case, that's going to be the homepage component. Now we can duplicate this component a few more times. We are going to have one for the exchanges. That's going to be path/exchanges with a lowercase e. Then we're going to have one for cryptocurrencies. And the path is going to be /cryptocurrencies with lowercase c. And we're going to have two more. One is going to be cryptodetails. So we can say cryptodetails. And the path to that is going to be /crypto/ and then coinId. This colon means that this thing is going to be dynamic. It can be 1, 2, 12, or so on. So that says it's dynamic. And then the last route is going to be news. And finally, the path is going to be /news. These are all the components that we're going to have: homepage, exchanges, cryptocurrencies, cryptodetails, and news. So to make our life easier, we can immediately import them all at the top, and then we can create the basic layout for each one of them. So at the top, we can say navbar, then we're going to have exchanges, we're also going to have homepage, we need cryptocurrencies, we need news, and finally, we need crypto details. Let's save it and let's see if we covered everything. We did. And finally, let's create those components in the components folder. So let's go to the components, new file. That's going to be, let's start from the top to bottom. That's going to be homepage.jsx. We can simply run rafce, and in here we can say homepage. We can now copy this entire component and create the second one. The second one is going to be exchanges. So let's type exchanges.jsx, simply paste it, select multiple things, and type exchanges. Then we can go on to the third one, which is going to be cryptocurrencies. So new file, cryptocurrencies.jsx. Again, we can copy this thing, paste it, and say cryptocurrencies. Let's go even further. We need to do crypto details. So let's create cryptodetails.jsx. And again, copy and paste and rename. This is going to be crypto details. And there is the last component we need, which is going to be called news. So we can create a news.jsx component. Again, we can simply copy, paste, and rename. I know that this was a lot of manual work, but this is going to save us a lot of time in the future. Finally, we have to go to index.js and we have to export all of these components. So let's duplicate this line a few times. Say export default as, let's start with cryptocurrencies from cryptocurrencies. We're going to have crypto details from crypto details. We also have exchanges from exchanges, homepage from homepage, and news from news. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. We covered everything. Now, inside of the app, we're importing them. Therefore, we should be able to render those components on specific routes. Let's go ahead and test it out. If we go back to our application and click Cryptoverse, you should see that we are now on localhost 3000. And if you click cryptocurrencies, you can see that a little S pops up here. It means that we have some styling issues. So to fix this and instantly make it better, to fully implement and design, you have to go to the index.js, and inside of here, you have to import something from and design. That something is import and then a string and/dist/and/d.css. This is one single line that's going to make our app look so much better. And there we go. Now you can see Cryptoverse is a navigation bar. We can see the content here, which shouldn't be that high, but it's there. And we can now switch cryptocurrencies, exchanges, and news, as you can see, all of these are swappable. We can also manually check for the coin details. If you remember, that's going to be in app, and then we have to go to crypto and then a specific ID. So if we go to crypto and then /1, you should be able to see crypto details. All of our components are being rendered now. Let's just finish the layout so that this shows up nicely. And let's add a footer, and then we are ready to start implementing the functionality. So the last part we have to do here is the footer. Inside of our footer, let's add a typography, more specifically a typography.title. It's not going to be a self-closing component. Inside of there, you can type Cryptoverse, or feel free to call it however you want. Then we're going to add a break tag. And finally below, we can say all rights reserved. Great. This title is going to have a level equal to 5, and it's also going to have some styles. We can do some inline styles like this, and we can say color is equal to white, and also the text align is going to be equal to center. I just noticed the level and the style should have gone to the actual title, not a div with the footer, so we can paste them here. And below that title, we are going to have a space. That's the nDesign's way of saying this is a div, but we're going to give some space between the items. So inside of here, you can create a link to home. We can duplicate that. The second one is going to be to exchanges. So you can say exchanges with a lowercase e. And the third one is going to be news. You can type news here as well. Great. This part seems to be done. Let's save it and check it out. As you can see, our footer doesn't seem to be on the bottom. It's on the top right. So let's see where have we messed up. The closing div of the main should have been right here below. So the closing div of the main also needs to wrap the footer. That was the issue we've had. So let's align this properly. Keep in mind, the footer is now inside of the div main. Let's save it and check it out. And there we go. Our footer is now being displayed correctly. As you can see, we still have some issues where the footer is not showing up at the bottom of the screen, but once we actually start implementing all of the content pages, we'll figure out why there's a problem with that. So let's go ahead and let's start with the functionality of this application. Again, I know we took a lot of time to create the basic layout and the functionality of routing, but this is going to save us so much time in the future, and that's the reason why we did that. So let's go ahead and start with the functionality. Let's start by building out the homepage. To build out the homepage, we can go to Source, Components, and then Homepage. Inside of here, we can import a few things. We can import Millify. That's the package that's going to format our numbers. Then we can import a few things from nDesign. These are going to be typography, row, column, and it's going to be statistics, or rather statistics singular. This is going to be coming from nt_d. Then we're also going to import a link, and that link will be coming from React Router DOM. We can start off by deleting this div, and we're simply going to put an empty React fragment right here. You can do it like this. And then inside of there, we're going to start off with a title. We are going to use a lot of titles here, so we would have to do a lot of times typography.title. Just to make that a bit simpler, what we can do at the top, we can say const, and then destructure the title from typography. That's going to look like this. Now, from now on, you can simply say title. That's it. So our first title is going to be level 2, and then we can give it a class name equal to heading. Inside of there, we can simply say global crypto stats. Let's save it and take a look. As you can see, global crypto stats. Now we can add a row, and in that row, we're going to have a few columns. So we can say col, and that col is going to have a span equal to 12. That means it's going to take 12 spaces. In nDesign, there are a total of 24 spaces. This means that it's going to take half the width of the screen. Now inside of there, we're going to render one more and design component, which is called statistic. Statistic is a self-closing component, and inside of there, you can pass two different things. We can pass a title, and in this case, we can say total cryptocurrencies. And then you can pass a value. In this case, let's say the value is going to be 5. But later on, of course, we're going to fetch real data and then put it right here. Now that we have this, you can copy and paste this line 5 more times. We're going to have 6 of these columns in total. The second one is going to say total exchanges. The third one is going to be the total market cap. The fourth one is going to say total 24-hour volume. And the fifth one is going to say total markets. That's it. We don't need the sixth one. And let's see how does it look like in the browser. As you can see, this is what a stat component is. A simple div with a heading like this, and then the value right here. Of course, our goal is to fetch all of the real data from the API to display it right here. As you can see, our footer is still kind of here in the middle. It's not going all the way down. But that problem is going to be fixed automatically as we add more content. So what better way to add more content than to fetch real, actual API data using Redux Toolkit? So now I'm going to teach you how we can fetch real cryptocurrency data from RapidAPI using the Redux Toolkit. Stay tuned. This is going to be a really educational part. It might be a bit hard, but as soon as you start writing more code, you're gonna notice that it all makes sense and that it's actually easy, the easiest way to fetch data from APIs. So let's do that right away. Redux, a predictable state container that has been a problem for React developers for quite some time now. It's predictable, centralized, debuggable, and flexible, but it's definitely not easy, especially for new React developers. That's why the Redux team thought of something. They said, let's replace all of the default code people have to write, and let's remove all of the files and folders and simplify it. And that's how Redux Toolkit was born. If you simply click Get Started and scroll a bit down, you'll notice that Redux Toolkit is now the official recommended approach for writing Redux logic, and it makes it so much simpler. So far, I haven't seen a lot of quality tutorials on Redux Toolkit, so you can think of this video as your introduction or a course for Redux Toolkit on our cryptocurrency app example. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know how to use the Redux Toolkit, but also how to use the Redux Toolkit query. The RT query is a really useful way of actually fetching data from APIs. We can go to the top right and search for query, and you're going to notice that under part 8 of the tutorial, Redux Essentials, Redux Query Advanced Patterns, and everything else you need to know about querying data is right here. But you don't have to read through that because we are going to do it together in this video. To start fetching our data, we are going to go back to the RapidAPI's hub, and we're going to search for coin ranking. Once this loads, you can click on this blue button right here. For you, it might say something different, like subscribe. There is a free plan, so don't worry about that. And as soon as you're subscribed, you'll be able to click here to test the endpoint. As you can see, you're immediately going to get all of the possible data right away. So what do we have to do to use this API? Well, you can go under code snippets, and for now, you can simply copy and paste this options object. Back in our app, I'm going to close all the files and folders, and we can go to source and create a new folder. That folder is going to be called services. That is Redux's new way of fetching data. Inside of services, you can simply type cryptoAPI.js. And inside of here is where we'll do the logic of fetching the data from the API. Just so we don't forget about it, you can paste the options right here because we have to use this data later on. But before we set cryptoAPI, we need to create a store for our Redux application. A store is one central state of truth, meaning your entire application's state. And we can create a store by creating a new folder in the source folder called app. Inside of the app, you can create one file called store.js. Redux simplified the process of creating a store significantly. You can simply say import, and then import the configure store function from add redux.js/toolkit. Finally, you can say export default configure store. You need to call it as a function and then pass an object inside of there. The first parameter in this object is going to be reducer. And for now, we're going to leave that as an empty object. Great. Now that we're exporting the store, let's actually use it inside of our index.js. We can go to the index, and inside of here, we can import store from /, and that's going to be app and then /store. This is the variable we have to provide to our provider. So at the top, we can say import provider from React Redux. Now that we have it, we have to do a similar thing we did with this router. Simply, we have to wrap the app by saying provider store and then enclosing our app into that. As you can see, we are now wrapping our app with the router and also with the provider, where we are setting the store variable to be equal to store. We are doing this because now our entire app is inside of the provider, which means that every single component inside of the app is going to have access to the store variable. Now that we have the provider and the store, we can actually create the first piece of the data fetching functionality. And we can do that by importing a few things from Redux.js. So we can say import, that's going to be create API and fetch base query. These things are coming from at redux.js/toolkit and then /query. Now we're also going to set the headers. So we can say const crypto API headers, and that's going to be equal to an object. And we simply have to copy these headers right here. This is coming from RapidAPI, so make sure to copy it. Later on, we're going to replace these keys with environment variables so that they're not available to the public. The second thing we need from here is this URL. So we can copy it and we can store it in a variable by simply saying base URL is going to be equal to this. Great. Now we can remove this and we can say export const crypto API. Our crypto API is going to be equal to create API, that's coming from Redux, and then we have to pass some options inside of an object. First thing is going to be the reducer path. So we have to say, what is this reducer for? And you can simply provide the name here. In this case, let's say crypto API. Then you have to provide the base query. So right here, base query is going to be equal to fetch base query, which is a function that accepts an object. And inside of there, you can simply say base URL is equal to base URL. It's not base URL, it's base URL. And the final and the most important thing are the endpoints. So we can say endpoints, and that's going to be equal to a function where you get a builder as a first parameter, and that function instantly returns an object. Inside of that object, you can specify the names of the endpoints. For example, something like get cryptos, we can name it anything you want, and that's going to be equal to builder.query. You pass an object as options again, and then inside of there, you say query is equal to, and you provide a function that's going to point to that specific request. So let's say that we want to get the information for the exchanges. In that case, it would simply be something like /exchanges. But keep in mind that if we want to make this request, we also need to pass the headers. So we can create a simple utility function that's going to simply add the URL and the headers to our call. We can do that by saying const create request, and that's going to be equal to a function that accepts a URL and simply returns an object that contains the URL, which is equal to the URL. And finally, it contains the headers, which are equal to crypto API headers. Now, instead of simply calling the / exchanges, we can call create request. And in there, we can simply pass the URL, which is in this case / exchanges. Great. So this way, we're going to get all the exchanges. The name might not be appropriate, but we're going to worry about that later on. I know that we wrote a lot of code that might be new to you, but don't worry, we're going to repeat this process one more time, and I'll try to explain in a bit more depth what these fields are for once again, once we actually start seeing the data that we're getting. But for now, let's repeat one more time. We created a store in a store.js. We passed that store variable to a provider that we are wrapping our app with. As you can see, it's right here. And then we created a specific API that we're going to use to fetch API data from RapidAPI. Now we need to find a way to connect this API to the store. And we can do that by importing that API. Import, that's going to be crypto API. And that's going to be coming from /services/crypto API. And the only thing you have to do is inside of the reducers object, in square brackets, crypto API dot reducer path, and then that is equal to crypto API dot reducer. Redux is doing everything for you. You just have to specify this for every single reducer that you create. As you can see, we create an API, and therefore we have all of these variables like reducer path and reducer. Now our application is connected. Now we have to see which data do we have to get first and then fetch it from the appropriate endpoint from the API. If you remember correctly, before we started implementing Redux, we were on the home page and we needed the data for the total cryptocurrencies, exchanges, market cap, and so on. So how can we get that data? Well, that data is coming from a specific endpoint. And in this case, let's call it get cryptos. The actual endpoint we are looking for is not going to be / exchanges. Rather, it's going to be / coins. That's going to give us more information about all cryptocurrencies. So now we have the crypto API, which we're using in the store, but we also have this get cryptos query. So we can export it, and you can do that by saying export const, then an object, and then in there you can say use get cryptos query. So Redux Toolkit actually creates a hook that you can call instantly to get all the data for your query. That's going to make it so much simple to retrieve the data. They also give you loading states, finalized states, and everything else you need while making API calls. And export const this, but that's coming from, so we can say equal to crypto API. Like this, there we go. Export const, use get cryptos query. Again, that has to be same to this name right there, but you have to put the use before and query at the end. Now we're exporting that. Let's go back to the home page and let's import it. We can import it at the top by saying import use get cryptos query, and that's going to be coming from /services/crypto API. So you might be wondering, how do we call it? And the answer is incredibly simple. Const, and then in curly braces, we get the data, and Redux also gives us the is fetching state. And you call this as a hook, simply use get cryptos query. And we immediately get the data. So for now, let's simply console log the data to see what we are working with. Before we console log the data, let's make sure to go to the crypto API and just scroll right. I've just noticed that instead of /query, we need to have /query /react. So if you add that, we can go here and we can now see our data. Let's save it and take a look in the browser. As you can see, we first have 2 states of undefined, and then finally we have a status of success, and then inside of the data we have base, which is the USD, we have the coins, but right now, most importantly, we have the stats for all the data that we need. As you can see, it is that simple. Without a lot of code, we've managed to create a hook to make this API request. But right now we only have one, and we have already created the entire code we need to create multiple. So all of this code is going to remain. We just have to keep adding more endpoints to be able to make more requests. So now let's see how can we fetch the data from here. You saw that at the start the data was undefined. That's why Redux Toolkit automatically gives us the isFetching variable so that we can check if isFetching. Then we want to return some kind of a loading state, so we can say loading here. And now let's see how we can make use of the data. To make use of it, we can create a new variable, const global stats. And global stats is going to be equal to data data one more time to get into that data object, and then finally stats. Great. Now we can use this global stats object to represent our stats. We can start with total currencies right here, and the value is going to be global stats and then .total. Let's save it and see if that works. There we go, 12,155 cryptocurrencies. Let's add all of the remaining details. For the other ones, we're going to use the Millify package. So at the top, we can simply import Millify. Import, that's going to be a default import, Millify from Millify. Now it's starting to get hard to read everything at this high font size, so I'm going to decrease it a bit so that we can see everything. Now for total exchanges, we can put a dynamic value, call the Millify function, and as a parameter, provide global stats.exchanges. And finally, we can copy that and we can continue with all the other ones. So for total market cap, instead of exchanges, we can simply say .total market cap. Then again, we can paste it one more time. For the total 24-hour volume, it's going to be total 24-hour volume. And finally, we have total markets, so simply paste it one more time, and instead of exchanges, we can say total markets. I've just noticed that I've imported Millify 2 times, so let's remove the second instance, and also instead of just exchanges here, it's going to be total exchanges. Now that we fixed that, let's check it out in the browser. And there we go. I'm going to remove the console for now so that we can see it. There we go, global crypto stats, total cryptocurrencies 12,000, exchanges almost 400, total market cap around 2.3 trillion, and the total 24-hour volume is 125 billion. That's great. Now we have our general global crypto stats. But now is the time that we fetch data about each specific cryptocurrency, map over it, and display it here. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. Just below this row, we can render one div. This div is going to have a class name equal to home heading container. Inside of that div, we can have a title, and this title is going to be of a level 2, and it's going to have a class name equal to home-title. Inside of there, we can simply say top 10 cryptocurrencies in the world. Now we can duplicate that title. The bottom one can be level 3, and we can simply say show more. But that's going to be show-more with the class name. And finally, in there, we can render a link component like this. And that link is going to point to /cryptocurrencies. Inside of there, we can simply say show more. Great. Let's save it and take a look in the browser. As you can see, now we have top 10 cryptocurrencies in the world and also a show more button. Now, below that, we're going to render a cryptocurrencies component. So cryptocurrencies, and it is a self-closing tag. Now we can copy both the cryptocurrencies and the div, duplicate it one more time. This is still going to be home heading container, home title, but in this case, we can say latest crypto news. So this is going to be the second section of our homepage, and the second link can still say show more, but it's going to point to news. And then the component is going to be just the news component. Now, when calling both of these components, I'm going to pass one prop, which is going to be called simplified. On our homepage, we only want to show first 10 cryptocurrencies and first 10 news. So with this variable, we'll be able to change it to only show 10 and not 100. Of course, to render these components, we have to import them. So just at the top, let's say import cryptocurrencies, and that's going to be from / components. And from there, we can also get the news. Let's save it and take a look. As you can see, we have two headings, show more buttons, and we are rendering the cryptocurrencies component, which is right now just a text saying cryptocurrencies. But let's change that and let's actually render out all the different cryptocurrencies. We can do that, of course, by going to the cryptocurrencies component. Inside of here, let's first import a few things. Import Millify from Millify. Also import link from React Router DOM. Then we're going to import something from endDesign, a card, a row, a column, and an input. That's going to be coming from endD. And finally, we also need to get import use get cryptos query coming from /services / crypto API. Great. Now let's call that query the same way we did it before by saying const destructure it data, which we're going to rename to cryptos list. Then we get the is fetching. And finally, that is equal to use get cryptos query. Great. Now we can import use state, and in there we can create a news state field. We can say use state, and the state is going to be called cryptos. Set cryptos, and the starting value is going to be equal to crypto list $.data $.coins. This is going to give us access to all the coins. We can start right away by simply console logging it. So console log cryptos, that is our state field. And we misspelled it. It's cryptos list like this. Let's go ahead and see this console log in the browser. Our console is open. There are a lot of warnings, but if you want to get rid of them, simply click show console sidebar and click info. That way you'll only see the info console logs. And there we go. This is our list of 50 cryptocurrencies with all the data that you can wish for. Now would be the perfect time to loop over them. So let's create a layout. We are going to have a React fragment here, like this. Then inside of there, we're going to have a row, and row in endDesign can have gutters. These are just simply some spaces in between the items, and we're going to set them to 32 and 32, top and bottom, left and right. We are also going to give this row a class name equal to crypto-card-container. Now inside of here, we want to map over all of our cryptos. So we can say cryptos.map, and then of course we use the map like this, where we get each specific cryptocurrency, and we simply instantly return something. Take notice, there is no curly brace here, it's just a regular parenthesis, meaning that we are instantly returning something. So for each currency, we want to return a column, and a column in endDesign has the property XS, and that means how wide is it gonna be on extra small devices. The total width is 24, so we want the column to take the full width, 24 out of 24, because mobile devices are not wide enough for more on the same row. Then we're going to have the small, which is going to be 12, meaning 2 per row. And finally, large, which is going to be 6. We're also going to give it a class name, which is equal to crypto-card. And remember, we're looping over something, so we need to add a key, which is going to be equal to currency.id. Now, inside of that column, we're going to make it a link. So the entire card is going to be a link. And that link is going to point to, and let's make it dynamic. That's going to be /crypto/ and then in here, we have to specify the ID by simply saying currency.id. Finally, let's create that card by saying card. It's going to accept a few properties like a title. Let's make it dynamic like this with a template string. And first, we're going to have currency.rank and then dot and a space currency.name. Finally, with the title, we can also provide one extra thing, and that thing is going to be called exactly like that, extra. In the extra, we can provide the image, and that image is going to have a class name equal to crypto-image and an src equal to currency.icon URL. Finally, we're going to make this card hoverable by saying hoverable right here. And you might be wondering, what data are we going to have in our card? And the answer is just a few paragraphs. The first p tag is going to simply specify the price. So we can say price is equal to millify and then currency.price. Again, we have to use millify because these numbers are really long, so this is simply going to make them readable to humans. Looks like I misspelled currency, and with that, we can copy this 2 more times. We can specify the market cap, and that's going to be currency.market cap. And the last thing is going to be the daily change, which is going to be currency.change, and we can add a % sign at the end. Great. With that, we're done with the card. Let's save it and take a look in the browser. And would you look at that? With and design, with just a few lines of JSX, we quickly created a grid of cards. As you can see, there are about 50 cards now. Later on, we're going to simplify it so that on the homepage, we can only see the first top 10. But we can hover them, they are here. We can see the rank, the name, the image, and finally some information about that cryptocurrency. The cards seem to be a bit too close to each other. Looks like our gutter didn't work, so let's go back and see where's the error. I've made a typo. It should have been gutter here, not gutters. Now let's check it out. And there we go. This looks even better. Now let's only fetch 10 cryptocurrencies on the homepage, but once we actually navigate to cryptocurrencies, then let's show all of them. To do that, we need to specify a count. So let's create a count variable, const count is equal to, and if we are in a simplified view, then we're going to make the count equal to 10, else it's going to be 100. So where do we get access to this simplified value? Well, it's coming through props. If you remember correctly, in the homepage, we're passing that simplified, and if you don't specify a value, by default, it is set to true. So one more time, back in cryptocurrencies, if the simplified is true, the count is going to be set to 10. And then we can pass that count to our use get cryptos query. Now with that, we can open up our services and we can get that count right inside of here. We pass it in a function call and we get it right here through parameters. So now to make use of it, we can simply add a question mark and set the limit equal to count. Of course, we have to make this a template string. And with this simple change, now we're going to get the count of 10 if we're on the home page. Now that we added the count here, we also have to go to the home page and set the count of 10 there. Now let's save it and check it out. And there we go. Top 10 cryptocurrencies in the world. If we scroll down, we can only see 10. But if we click show more, we are re-navigated to cryptocurrencies and looks like we get an error. So let's see what that is about. Now, as you can see, we're not using the isFetching variable. So let's add an if and say if isFetching. In that case, we can simply return a string that says loading. Great. One more change we have to make is with this crypto list, sometimes it's going to be undefined and we cannot loop over the undefined. So we just need to put a question mark right here. Now let's go ahead and save it and take a look. If you see right there, we have our 10 cryptocurrencies, and if we click show more, you should be able to see that now we have a list with 100 cryptocurrencies. Great, that works. And what we want to do is add an input field here so that we can filter out cryptocurrencies we're interested in. Let's do that right away. To do that, we can add a div right on the top of this row. Right here, let's indent it properly. Let's give it a class name equal to search-crypto. And let's spell search correctly. And inside of there, we are going to have a one input tag. This input is going to be a self-closing tag, and it's going to have a placeholder, something like search cryptocurrency. And we also have to have the on change. So on change, we're simply going to get the event and set search term is equal to event.target.value. As you can see, the search term is yet undefined. So let's create a new use state field called search term. Then we have the set search term. And finally, the initial value is going to be an empty string. Now, when we're changing the search term, we want to do something. So we can add a use effect. At the top, I'm going to import use effect. We can add the use effect above the if by simply saying use effect. It accepts a callback function, and it also accepts a dependency array. Now we can expand this function, and in the dependency array, we can add the cryptos list as well as the search term. That means that this function is going to get executed whenever one of these two values changes. And once it changes, we simply want to set cryptos to be equal to crypto list (data) (coins). Then we want to filter it out by the search term. So we can say const filtered data is going to be equal to crypto list (data) (coins) .filter. In the filter, we have a callback function where we get one specific coin, and then we want to check if coin.name.to lowercase includes search term to lowercase. This is one long line that's going to allow us to search or filter out only the searched coin in the array of 100 cryptocurrencies. I'm missing an S here in the cryptos list, but besides that, we are good. So finally, what we can do is we can set cryptos to be equal to filtered data. In that case, we don't even need the first line because we're setting it right there. So let's remove this. And now that we're setting cryptos like this, we can also just leave the empty array at the start right here, because this is happening at the start as well. Use effect is a combination of a component did mount happening at the start and also component did update for these two properties. Now let's save it and see if this works. Now we have a search at the top, and let's try searching for something like Bitcoin. And you can immediately see Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, and BitTorrent. Great, that works. And as you delete, you can actually search for all the other cryptocurrencies, as you can see. Great, that part is now done. But if we now go to home, you can notice that we can also see the search here. On the home, we only want to show the first top 10. You need to click show more to be able to see the search. That's what we want to do. So think about it a bit. how would you show the search on the Show More page, on the cryptocurrencies page, and hide it from the home page? Think about it. Well, remember, we have that simplified tag or a property that we can filter something based off of. So we can say if no simplified, then render this. That means since simplified is true on the home page, but if it's not simplified, that's gonna be not a home page. So we can put this here, indent it properly, and this is going to make it disappear on the home page. There we go. As you can see, only the top 10 cryptocurrencies and no search. But if we go to show more, you can see the search is right there. This is already starting to look better because our footer is nicely there at the bottom, our navigation bar is on the left side, and the content is filling out the entire screen. The cryptocurrencies page is done, and the home page is half done. We still have to do the news. So the news page is going to be our next step. To implement the news page, we can close all currently open files and go to source, components, and that's going to be news. All of the news magic is going to be happening here. So to start off, let's import a few things from end-design, and these are going to be select, typography, row, column, avatar, and a card from end-d. We also need moment, so we're going to import moment from moment. And now we have to fetch the news data. The situation is going to be similar as with fetching the cryptocurrencies. We have to create a service. So let's repeat the process we did with Redux in the services for the crypto app. Now we're going to repeat a similar process for crypto news API. Let's create a new service. We can call it something like crypto news API.js. And for now, we can even put them side by side. So I'm going to put the crypto API on the right side and crypto news API on the left side. So now this is a recap. Now you can see what exactly is happening with Redux. So first we import create API and fetch base query. Then we need to get the crypto API headers. But these headers are not going to be the same now. We have to get new headers for the second API we're going to use from RapidAPI. We can go back to the RapidAPI's hub and search for Bing News. Bing News search is the API we need. Make sure to click this button to subscribe. You'll be led to the pricing section, and in here you can simply subscribe to the basic version. Then back at the endpoints, we can simply test the endpoint and see if it works. Now we can go to code snippets, and again we can simply copy the headers. Going back to our app, we can say const crypto news headers is equal to, and we can simply paste the object we just copied. Again, right now our API key is here, but we're going to use environment variables later on to hide it from other people. We also need to get the base URL, and we can get that by copying this thing right here. We can say const base URL is equal to, and then we can simply paste it right here. Make sure to remove the last /. We can also copy the create request, as it is going to be fairly similar, but now instead of crypto API headers, we're going to have crypto news headers. And finally, we can copy the part about creating a specific API. So I'm simply going to paste it here. We can call this API crypto news API. Reducer path is going to be, again, crypto news API. Fetch base query with the base URL. And finally, we have the endpoints. Here, we won't have the get cryptos endpoint, but we're going to have get crypto news endpoint. And as parameters, we're going to get an object that's going to contain news category, as well as the count of news we want to get. Of course, we don't yet have these values, but we're going to pass them once we make this get crypto news call. Now let's close this, and we can finalize this API call. The URL string for this is a bit longer, so I'm going to put it as a gist in the description down below, so you can simply copy and paste it right here. It should look something like this: news, search, news category, save search off, text format raw, freshness is equal to day, and count is equal to count. Great. This is our endpoint. And don't forget, if we look at the Crypto API, we have to export the use query. So let's go back here, and now we don't have use get cryptos query, we have use get crypto news query. And this is coming from Crypto News API. Great. Now if we get back into news, we can import that use query. Import use get crypto news query. And this is coming from /services /crypto news API. Great. We're going to also destructure a few things from our end design properties, something like const, and we're going to get the text and the title from the typography, and also const option. We are going to get that from the select. Great. Now let's fetch this data. We can do that by saying const, and then in here we get the data, which we're going to rename to crypto news, and that's going to be equal to use get crypto news. And don't forget, in there we have to provide an object with two parameters. First one is the news category, which is going to be equal to cryptocurrency. And then the second one is the count. Now the situation is going to be the same as with cryptocurrencies. We are getting that simplified field. Simplified is going to be true if we are on the home page. So if we are, we can say count is equal to, if simplified, then count is going to be 10, otherwise it's going to be 100. Great. Now let's console log the crypto news to see if we're successfully fetching them. Back in our application, you can see that we are getting undefined, but under errors, take a look at this. This is pretty interesting. Error, no data found at state.cryptonewsapi. Did you forget to add the reducer to the store? Redux Toolkit made some great adjustments, and now their errors are really readable. We definitely did forget to add the reducer to the store, so let's do that right away. You already know the process. We're going to go to the app, store.js. We're simply going to import the Crypto News API this time, and Crypto News API. And this time, we can simply, instead of Crypto API.reducer path, we can say Crypto News API.reducer path and Crypto News API.reducer. With that, we should be ready to console log this data. If we go back and reload, you can see we have our news. More specifically, we have the options to sort them, the read link, and we have the values, which contain the actual articles, the images, URLs, and everything you can think of. So what do you say that we start looping over those news right now? We can do that like this. First, I'm going to add an if statement and say if no crypto news $value. In that case, we want to return, again, a string that says loading. Finally, we can start creating the layout. Everything is going to be one row. So we can in here say row, and we can provide some gutters. I'm going to say gutter is equal to, and then an array of 24 and 24. Inside of here, we can start mapping over crypto news by saying crypto news .value.map. Great. The situation is the same as before. We have an instant return, and then in here we get one news article. Now, what are we going to show for each news? Well, we're going to show a column. Our column is going to be XS is equal to 24, SM equal to 12, and large is equal to 8, and we need to pass a key, which can be equal to simply the index of the array we're mapping over. Inside of that column, we're going to have a card, That card is going to have a state of hoverable, so that we can see that nice hover effect. And it's going to have a class name equal to news-card. That entire card is going to be an anchor tag, so we can say anchor tag, and it's going to have an href, which is going to point to news.url. Target is going to be set to _blank to open that news article in a new card, and the rel is going to be no referrer. Inside of our anchor tag, we're going to have a div, and that div is going to have a class name equal to news-image-container. Inside of there, we can add a title, and this title is going to have a class name equal to news-title. And in there, it's going to be of a level is equal to 4, and we can simply say news.name. This should be enough to see something in the browser. But before we do that, let's fix a few things. First of all, this here should be rel, not ref. I again made a typo. And the second thing, in here I've mentioned 10 articles and 100 articles, but we don't have that much. It's not like cryptocurrencies. So for simplified view on the homepage, I'm going to show 6, and on the news page, we're going to show 12. Now let's save it, and let's really take a look in the browser. If we scroll down, you should be able to see we have our cards that contain the latest crypto news. We don't yet have the image, but here are the cards. You can hover over them, they have the title, and if you click on them, a news article is going to open. Great. Let's go back to our site and let's continue making Cryptoverse even better. What we can do right now is below the title, we're going to add the image. This is going to be the img tag, and we can get the source by saying news, ?.image, ?.thumbnail, and ?.content URL. Some news are not going to have the image, so I'm going to say or, and then specify the demo image URL. We can add this demo image at the top above our functional component simply by saying const demo image is equal to, and now I'm going to give you access to a string which you can simply copy and paste right here. This is a basic cryptocurrency demo image. Great. Of course, every image needs to have an alt tag, so I'm going to say alt is equal to, and this is going to be news. Below this first div, we're going to have a paragraph. Inside of this paragraph, we're going to render the description, so we can say news.description, and if a length is longer than 100 characters, in that case, we're going to render a string news.description.substring, and the substring is going to be from 0 to 100. And at the end of the string, we can add dots, meaning there is more. If the description is less than 100 characters, we can simply render news.description. Great. Let's check it out in the browser. This already looks so much better. As you can see, latest crypto news, and we can see 3 different articles right here with titles, images, and descriptions. Now below that, we just need one more div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to provider-container. Inside of that div, we're going to have one more div, and this div is going to have a property of avatar that is going to be a self-closing tag. In there, we can say source is equal to news.provider0, ?.image, ?.thumbnail, and again, ?.content URL. And finally, we can say or demo image if there is none. The alt we can leave empty for this one. Finally, below that, we can render a text, and the text is going to be the timestamp. So we can use the moment library, call it as a function like this, and then inside of there, we can say news.date published, and then .start off a string of ss .from now. Let's call it and see how does it look like. There we go. 36 minutes ago, 5 hours ago, and we can see the image of the news page that posted that specific article. but we're missing the name of the article poster. So this text with the timestamp should have gone below this div, but below the avatar inside of the div, we can render another text. And this text is going to have a class name equal to provider-name. Then inside of there, we can simply render news.provider and then 0 and then !name. Great. Let's save it and check it out. There we go. MSN, Yahoo Finance, Business Insider. Our news are showing. But if we go to show more, as you can see, something doesn't look right. Images are overflowing and generally this doesn't seem great. So let's fix the problem. We can fix this issue by simply giving this image an inline style, and we're going to set max width to be equal to something around 200 pixels and max height to be equal to something around 100 pixels. Let's save it and take a look. And there we go. This is already much better. We can see different images, titles, news providers, and when the news article was posted. Now let's go to the homepage and see if we have our 6 cards there. We have 10 top cryptocurrency and 6 of the latest news. Now if we go to show more, as you can see, we have 12 news and they are all here. What we're going to do next is implement a select at the top so that we can only get news about one specific cryptocurrency you're interested in. We can do that above where we map over the news by saying if no simplified, then render the following code. We are going to have a column that's going to have the span equal to 24. Inside of there, we're going to have a select field. And that select is going to have quite a few properties. It's going to say show search. Also, it's going to have a class name equal to select-news. It's going to have a placeholder equal to select a news category, or we can rather say select a crypto. Then we're also going to have the option filter prop, which is going to say children. Below that, we're going to have the onChange, of course, and onChange, we're going to get the value and we want to store it somewhere. For now, we can simply console log it. And finally, we're going to have filter option, which is going to be equal to a callback function where we get the input and we also get the option. That function is going to return the following: option.children dot to lower case and then dot index of and then input dot to lower case. Exit the second parenthesis is greater or equal to 0. This is quite a long one, but basically what this is doing, it's filtering out the options so that we only show the one for our selected cryptocurrency. Of course, we have to create a use state for the news category. So at the top, we can say use state, and we can call it news category and set news category. For that, we have to import use state from React. At the start, our category is going to be equal to cryptocurrency. And then later on, we can change it. Now that we have the news category, we can instantly pass it here. We don't have to keep this hard-coded anymore. So news category is equal to news category. And now in here, we can render out the options that we want to select. So inside of our select, we can simply show an option. And the default option is going to be value is equal to cryptocurrency. So all currencies. But now we want to get real options about the specific currencies, about the currencies that we have. And remember, we already know the names of all the cryptocurrencies. We are fetching that right inside of our homepage or inside of our cryptocurrencies. So we can simply copy the use get cryptos query, go back to news, and get them right here. This time we can simply call it data and we don't need isFetching. Of course, at the top, we can duplicate this line and we can import use get crypto query from, and that's going to be crypto API. In this case, the count can be 100, so we get 100 cryptocurrencies. Now that we have the data about all the cryptocurrencies, we can map over it right below our option. So we can say data dot data and then dot coins. We want to map over the coins by doing the map and then instantly return an option. This option is going to have the value equal to currency dot name, and the text we're going to render is also going to be currency dot name. In this case, we called it coin, so it's going to be coin dot name, and it's going to show the value of coin dot name. Right now, we're simply const logging the value, but we're not setting it. So the only thing we need to do to make this work is we have to call the set news category and set it to value. This should make our select work, and we should be able to filter out news based on specific cryptocurrencies. As you can see on the top left, we have select a crypto. You can see first this is the default option, and then we can list through names of all of the top 100 cryptocurrencies. Let's go for news about Ethereum. If you click it, there we go. Cardano versus Ethereum, how do they compare? You can even see we have some German news, but mostly it's just US American news. Great. This is already starting to be a great platform for all the cryptocurrency enthusiasts. We have the global crypto stats, top cryptocurrencies in the world, and we have the latest crypto news. What more can you want from this app? Well, there is one more really important thing. You'd want to learn more about these top cryptocurrencies, or more about all cryptocurrencies that exist. So if you click on a specific card, you don't want to see simply crypto details. You want to see everything there is about that one specific cryptocurrency. And exactly that is going to be our next step. So let's go ahead and implement the crypto details. To implement the crypto details, we can go to the crypto details component, and let's start by importing a few things. First, we can import HTML React parser from HTML-React-parser. Then we can import use params, which is coming from React Router DOM. We can also import the standard Millify from Millify. We can import a few things from &design, things like column, row, typography, and select component. This is coming from &design. And we have to import a few icons. The list is quite long, so I'm going to leave this entire file already finished down in the description, so you can simply copy and paste some things from it. First thing that you can copy are going to be these icons. These are going to be all imports for now, but we can just destructure the title and also text, and that's going to be from typography. And we can do the same thing, const option, which is going to be coming from select. Great. Now we are ready to create our crypto details. To know which currency are we currently taking a look at, we need to get the coinId. So const and then destructure coinId, and that's going to be coming from use params. Use params takes the ID in the URL and simply allows you to use it as a variable. We can even check that part out if I use the coinId right here next to crypto details. Let's check it out. You can see we're currently on crypto details 1, but if I go to cryptocurrencies and then to some other cryptocurrency, you can see crypto details 20. Based on this, we'll be able to make the request to get all the other information about that specific cryptocurrency. Later on, we're going to render out the chart, so we need a time period. So let's simply import the use state from React, and let's create a new use state field, which is going to be called time period, like this. Set time period, and at the start, we can set it to 7 days. Now is the time that we fetch crypto details for that specific coin ID. We can do that by going to our crypto API service, and we simply have to add one more extra service. And that service is going to be get crypto details. We can even copy this builder.query because that part is going to be the same. And now we have to build that query. We can say query. As the parameter, we're only going to get the coin ID, and we can return create request coins coin ID. Now we have that endpoint, and if we go back, we can import it. We can import it simply by saying import, and that's going to be use get crypto details query. That's going to be coming from /services / and then that's going to be crypto API. I think I forgot to export it. So right here at the bottom, use get crypto details query. Great. Now we're exporting it, using it here. We can call it like this by saying const. We get the data. We also get the is fetching, and that's going to be coming if we call the use get crypto details query, and we need to pass the coin ID into it. And there we get all the data about one specific cryptocurrency. To be sure that we are getting that, let's simply console.log it. So we're going to console log the data. If we get back and reload the page, you should see that we have a 404. That's because I've made a typo. It's not coins, it's actually just coin and then the ID. So we can get back, go to Crypto API, and simply change the API to say coin. Now let's check it out. If we reload the page, under info, you can see status success. And then in here, we have all of the information you'd ever want to have about one specific coin. Let's make use of it. We'll be mapping through a lot of data later on. So I've created specific arrays with titles and values already done, so we can simply focus on writing JSX. You can go ahead and find the gist of crypto details and then copy the following lines. We're going to copy the part where we simply create an array of time and where we get the stats and generic stats for a specific cryptocurrency. So just feel free to copy these three parts. Again, nothing special is happening there. We're just using different titles, values, and then finally icons. Great. The last thing we have to do, as you can see, crypto details is undefined. So to get to them, we have to say const crypto details is equal to data ? Data ? Coin. Great. Now we're getting the stats and generic stats in an array format so we can easily map over it. So let's create the layout. We'll be writing a lot of code here, so let's pull our editor side by side by the browser so we can see the changes happening live. There we go, our screen is side by side and we can continue creating our layout. First things first, we are going to have a column right here, so we can say call, and that call is going to have a class. Name is equal to coin-detail-container. Inside of that column, we're going to have one more column, and this column is going to have a class name equal to coin-heading-container. Inside of there, we can specify a title. So right here, we can say title, level is going to be equal to 2, so it's a big title, and we're going to have a class name equal to coin-name. That's going to be title, and we can spread it. And inside of there, we can simply say crypto details.name, and then we can add parentheses, and then in there, we can say something like crypto details dot, and we can use the slug. Slug means alternative names for that cryptocurrency. And finally, price. Let's save it. And as you can see, Bitcoin, Bitcoin BTC, price. Below the title, we can add a p tag, and inside of there, we can simply say crypto details.name, and then after that, live price in US dollars. We can also add one more thing, which is going to say view value statistics, market cap, and supply. Let me fix that typo there and save it. There we go. Bitcoin live price in US dollars, view statistics, market cap, and supply. Right now, this navigation bar is showing on top, but we're going to fix that later on. Below the first column, we are going to have a select field. That select is going to accept a few props. The first one is going to be default value is equal to 7 days. Then the class name is going to be equal to select-time period. Then we're also going to have a placeholder, which is equal to select time period. And then finally, we're going to have the onChange property. Now I see that this is too long, so I'm going to put it in multiple lines like this. Class name, placeholder, and finally, we're going to have the onChange. OnChange, we get a function where we get the actual value. And finally, now that we have value, we can call the setTimePeriod and set it with the value. Remember, time period was the state that we created before. Great, that was our select. And finally, we have to loop over the options, which we can do by simply saying time.map. In here, we get the options, so we can say option right here. And finally, we can render out the option like this, give each option a key, which is equal to date, and finally specify the date inside of there. This option actually is a date, so let's write it like that. As you can see, now we have a select field, and we can choose between 3 hours all the way to 5 years. Below the select, we're going to render a line chart, but we're going to do that later on. So now let's focus on finishing all of the statistics. Here, we're going to have a lot of columns. Our first column is going to have a class name equal to stats-container. Then we're going to have one more column inside, like this. And this column is going to have a class name equal to coin-value-statistics. And we're going to have one final column right here, col, and this column is going to have a class name equal to coin-value-statistics-heading. Inside of here, we can render a title. That title is going to be of level is equal to 3, and it's going to have a class name equal to coin-details-heading. Finally, the title is going to say cryptodetails.name and then value statistics. Below the title, we can render a paragraph tag, and there we can simply say something like an overview showing the statistics or the stats of cryptodetails.name, and that's it. Most likely we are missing a column. Great. So finally, let's map over all of the statistics we're fetching from the API. We can do that just below this column. And we can do that by saying stats.map. We get a map here, and we can immediately destructure the icon, the title, and the value. Finally, we can instantly return something, and that something is going to be a column. And that column is going to have a class name, which is equal to coin-stats. Inside of there, we're going to have one more column. And this column is going to have a class name equal to coin-stats-name. The only thing we're going to put in there are going to be two text fields. The first one is simply going to show the icon. And then the second one is going to display the title. If we save it, you should see that we already have nice looking statistics, price to USD, rank, volume, and so on, but we don't have the actual value. So below this column, we're going to render out the text element, and that text is going to have a class name equal to stats, and then inside of there, we can simply render out the value. There we go. Here are the statistics for Bitcoin. Current price, $46,000, rank first, volume, market cap, and an all-time high of 64,000. Now, alongside Bitcoin value statistics, we want to show the statistics of all cryptocurrencies combined. So we can copy this coin value statistics, the entire column, which is starting from here and goes all the way here, and we can paste it below. The only thing we have to change in here is from coin value statistics to other stats info. And then also, this is not going to be stats, rather it's going to be generic stats. Great, let's save it. As you can see, the title still remains the same, but let's change it. Now we're going to say something like other statistics, just other statistics. That's going to be it. And we can remove this paragraph tag. And in the paragraph, we can say overview showing the stats of all cryptocurrencies. Let's save it. And now that we saved it, you can see it looks good. Right now, our window is of a weird width, but if we expand it a bit, you can see this is how it should look like. Bitcoin value statistics, price to USD, rank, and so on. But in here, we just have some general cryptocurrency statistics, just so you can compare. And finally, we want to show all other data that we have about that specific cryptocurrency. So below this column right here, this entire one close to the end, we're going to create one final column. And this column is going to have a class name equal to coin-dests-link. Inside of there, we want to render out a row. So we can say row. That row is going to have a class name equal to coin-dests. And inside of there, we can simply render a title. That title is going to be of a level is equal to 3. It's also going to have a class name equal to coin-details-heading. And in there, we can simply say something like what is, and then cryptodetails.name. Let's save it, and you can see what is Bitcoin. And below that, we want to use the HTML parser like this, HTML React parser, and we want to pass cryptodetails.description. The description is a raw HTML, so we want to parse it right here. And take a look. What is Bitcoin? Why does Bitcoin have value? And all the other information you might want on a specific coin. Finally, every coin has some related websites and links. So let's render them below this row. We're simply going to show a column. That column is going to have a class name equal to coin-links. There we can set the title. That title is going to have the level equal to 3, and the class name is going to be coin-details-heading. In there, we can again simply say cryptodetails.name. It's not with a capital C at the start, and we can simply say links. Let's save it. As you can see, Bitcoin links. And just below that title, we can loop over the crypto details link by saying cryptodetails.links.map. In here, we get a specific link, and we want to render out something for each link. More specifically, we want to render a row. That row is going to have a class name equal to coin-link and a key equal to link.name. So for each link, we want to render a title. The title is going to be of a level is equal to 5, and it's going to have a class name equal to link-name. And inside of that actual title, we can render a link.type. And below the actual title, we can render the anchor tag. That anchor tag is going to have an href equal to link.url. It's going to have a target equal to _blank, and it's going to have rel equal to no referrer. And finally, inside of there, we can render link.name. And there we go. Website, website, website. This is going to be Bitcoin Talk, GitHub, Reddit, Telegram. That's it. You can see everything here. One interesting link for all developers is going to be GitHub. You can actually visit a GitHub link for every open source cryptocurrency. Definitely make sure to check out Bitcoin's source code. And this is going to be it for the crypto details page. Take a look. If we scroll up, you can see Bitcoin, Bitcoin value statistics, and other statistics, as well as the Bitcoin links and all the information about Bitcoin. Right now, you might notice that we are definitely missing a chart here. So our next step is to create a line chart that's going to represent the change in value of Bitcoin over time. To create our chart, we can of course create a line chart component. So that's going to be a new file called line chart.jsx. Inside of there, we're going to do our usual RAFCE. We're also going to import line, and that's going to be coming from React-Chart.js-2. And finally, just a few things from end design. That's going to be a column, row, and finally the typography from end D. We can destructure the title by saying title is equal to typography. So how is our line chart going to look like, and how can we prepare the data for it? Well, back in Crypto Details, now we have the component that we can import right here. So just below this, we can say import, and that's going to be line chart from /line chart. Finally, we can render it right here instead of our comment by saying line chart. It is going to be a self-closing component. First, we're going to pass coin history, which is going to be equal to coin history. We don't yet have that, but that is going to be one more additional API call we have to create. Then we're also going to pass the current price, which is going to be equal to Millify and cryptodetails.price. And the final thing we have to pass is going to be the coin name, which is going to be equal to cryptodetails.name. Now we have everything besides the coin history. So let's go into our Crypto API and let's create that endpoint. Inside of our Crypto API, we can simply duplicate this one, add a comma, and let's call it get crypto history. Instead of the coin ID, we're going to accept an object that is going to include the coin ID as well as the time period. And we need to create a request to coin/coin ID and then /history and then /time period. Great. And that's it. Our endpoint is ready. Now you can see why I said that Redux Toolkit is so much easier. Once you have the entire structure, you basically have to keep adding endpoints, and then you immediately get these new use queries that you can use. In this case, we're getting use get crypto history query. Great. We can now take that, we can go back to Crypto Details, and we can simply call it at the top. We can import it from here, use get crypto history query. And now we can duplicate this line, and instead of the coin ID, we'll be passing in an object that contains the coin ID as well as the time period. And we're going to rename this data to be equal to coin history. Great. Also, you have to make sure that we're passing in the correct thing. Here, we're calling it time period with capital P. So we have to do the same thing here and here. Now we can go back to the line chart and accept all of the props we're passing into it. These props are going to be coin history, current price, as well as the coin name. That should be enough to create our line chart. So in the JSX, let's simply create an empty React fragment. Inside of that fragment, we can create a row. That row is going to have a class name equal to chart-header. Inside of there, we're going to have a title. That title is going to be of a level is equal to 2. Class name is equal to chart-title, and it's going to say coin name price chart. Finally, below that, we're going to have a column. That column is going to have a class name equal to price-container. Inside of there, we can add 2 more titles. The first title is going to be of a level is equal to 5, and it's going to have the class name equal to price-change. In there, we can simply say coin history, $data, $change. I see I have a typo here, so let me fix that. And we can add a percentage sign at the end. Now we can duplicate this title, change the class name to be current-price, and finally change this to say current coin name price. And then we can put a $sign and specify the current price. Great. Let's save that and check it out. Right now, we're getting an error, and we can fix that if we go to cryptodetails and then simply add the loader that we always have. So right here, we can say if is fetching. In that case, we simply want to return our usual string that says loading. Later on, we can replace that with a spinner loader. Let's save it and take another look. There we go. Now we can see Bitcoin price chart, minus 1.67%, current price 46,000. And the last piece of the puzzle is going to be the actual chart itself. So to create a chart, we can go back here, and just below this row, we can create a line, which is going to be a self-closing component that accepts data equal to data, and finally options, which is equal to options. As you can see, both data and options are undefined, so we are yet to create them. First, we have to loop over the coin history to get the prices and also to get the timestamps. We can do that at the top by creating 2 new arrays, const coin price is equal to an array, and const coin timestamp is equal to an empty array. Now we have to create 2 different for loops, so we can say for let I is equal to 0, I is less than, and that's going to be coin history $data $history $length, and I plus equal to 1. So we're looping over this until we come to the end of the coin history. Now that we're inside of the loop, we want to say coin price dot push. That's going to be coin history dot data dot history, and then we get the I element dot price. So we're pushing each price one by one into this new coin price array. And below this, we also want to push into the coin timestamp. So we can say coin timestamp dot push. And inside of here, we don't want to push the price, but rather the timestamp. And for timestamps, we want to push the actual timestamp and not the price. To make it more readable, we can say new and then date. That way we can convert this into a date. And finally, we can use .toLocale date string to make it more readable. Now we have coin price and coin timestamp arrays, which we can base our line chart off of. Finally, we have to still create the data and the options object. The data object in Chart.js looks like this. Const data is equal to an object, and inside of there, we're going to have labels. Labels are going to be equal to the coin timestamp array. And for each label, we have to have datasets, which is going to be an array, and it's going to have one object inside of there. There, we can say label is going to be equal to something like price in USD. Then we can have the data. Data is going to be equal to coin price. We can set the fill of the array to be equal to false. We can add the background color. I found the color something like hash 0071BD to work great. And finally, we can add the border color to be something like hash 0071BD as well. This is our data object. And finally, we need our options object. So we can say const options is equal to an object. Inside of there, we can say scales, which is yet another object. We can get into the y axis, and that's going to be an array. Inside of that array, we're going to have one object that's going to have the ticks, which is going to be an object itself that is going to say begin at 0 equal to true. I know it might be a bit confusing, but I'm going to leave this entire line chart in the description as well, so you can copy it if you get stuck somewhere. As a matter of fact, the entire project is up on GitHub. Just feel free to copy some parts that you think are wrong, and that's going to fix the issues for you. Great. With this, our chart should be visible. Let's check it out. And would you look at that? Our chart is here, and it's as glorious as ever. This graph now represents 1 year of Bitcoin's history. But if we switch it to 5 years, you can see it grew from basically 0, or it's around $600, to the current 50,000. Great, our chart is done. And with it, the entire crypto details page. Now let's check if this works for some other cryptocurrencies. Let's go to cryptocurrencies, and then for example, Ethereum. There we go, our graph opens. We can see the history, we can see all the information, and we can see what is Ethereum about. Great, this part works as well. Now let's see, but the last thing that we didn't do is the navigation bar. We have to figure out if the width of the device is small. In that case, we have the navigation bar, and if it's not, we have the sidebar. So let's do that right now. That part is going to be inside of the nav bar. Right inside of here, we can import use state and use effect. These are going to be the two hooks that are going to help us do this. We can create two different state fields. First one is going to be active menu and set active menu. And that is going to be equal to use state, and at the start, it's going to be set to true. The second one is going to be screen size and also set screen size. At the start, this is going to be set to null. Now we have to add two different use effects. The first use effect is not going to have anything in the dependency array. So it's just going to be a function that's going to happen once at the start of the render. Let's expand this function, and inside of there, we're going to create the const handle resize function. This is the function that is simply going to set the screen size equal to window dot inner width. This is how we can get the width of the screen, by saying window dot inner width. Then we have to say window dot add event listener on resize. So every time that the window resizes, we want to handle the resize. Finally, we want to call that handle resize function, and we need to return it right here as the function, and that's going to clear it. In useEffect, this return acts as the component did on mount. So in here, we can say window.remove event listener, resize, and then handle resize. Then the second useEffect is going to look like this. It's again going to be a function, but now in the dependency array, we are going to have the screen size. So this useEffect is going to be called whenever the screen size changes. And in here, we simply want to see if screen size is lower than 768 pixels, let's say that's a mobile or a tablet size, then we want to set the active menu to false, else we want to set the active menu to true. And this is going to be all the logic that we need. Finally, we have this active menu, and we can use that variable to make some changes. First of all, we're going to only show this menu when the active menu is true. So we can say if active menu, in that case, we can render the menu right here. And the last thing is we have to add a button. So here we're going to say button. That button is going to have the class name equal to menu-control-container. And it's also going to have an onClick property. OnClick, we simply want to set active menu to be equal to true. And inside of there, we can render an icon that's going to be called menu outlined. This is the entire logic and the code for our responsive menu. Let's check it out in the browser. Okay, now we have a sidebar menu, but if we inspect and go to mobile, as you can see, now we have this button, and if you click it, we can go to a specific place. Right now, it doesn't hide, it only opens. So if we go back in here, instead of setting the active menu to true, we can simply say set active menu to not active menu. There we go. Now it's going to toggle on and off. If we click it, we can click it again and it toggles. This is our fully responsive cryptocurrency application. You can see we can go to cryptocurrencies and there we go. Here is our list. If we click on Bitcoin, the chart is a bit too small, but if you turn your device to landscape mode, you can see it just a bit better. There we go. Everything is here, we can read it, and it looks great. The last part that we didn't do are the exchanges. If we go to exchanges, you'll notice that this component is still empty. And this is a special component that I left for you to do. You've learned how ant design works. You have references in some of the other components we've created. You know that we can use avatar, typographies, buttons, and everything else. So I have a challenge for you. Take a screenshot of this video right now to capture how the exchanges page looks like. It's going to be some sort of a table. You can see when you click on that table, it opens up and gives you more information about a specific exchange. We're listing exchanges, 24-hour trade volume, markets, and the change. So what I urge you to do is to give it some thought. At least browse through ant design components, see which ones could be used, and then simply reference the code to my finished repository code. The component itself is not that hard, so either feel free to think about it yourself or simply copy and paste it. The link is going to be down in the description. There we go. This is how it looks like. We are getting Millify, a few things from ant design, things like collapse, row, column, typography, avatar, HTML React parser, and we are creating one more service. At this point, you should have a good understanding of how services work, how we can create different endpoints. So we have the use get exchanges query. We haven't worked with this loader yet, but we're going to create that now. And finally, as you can see, we're fetching the data, we're looping over the exchanges, and then finally, we are displaying them. So feel free to copy this code, and at this point, I think it's going to make sense and that you can understand what's happening on this page. Of course, to finalize this, we have to create this loader component, which we're going to use to replace all of our plain string loadings with. And we also have to create our final query, which is called use get exchanges query. So let's go to Crypto API. Inside of here, just below get cryptos, I'm going to create a new query, which is going to be called get exchanges. Inside of there, we can simply set our request to be exchanges. It's not accepting any parameters. It's fairly simple. Finally, we can just export it by saying use get exchanges query. And that's about it. We did have to create a lot of logic at the start, but now as you keep adding more things onto it, it just gets easier and easier because you just have to follow a specific structure. We've created our use get exchanges query, and we just have to create our loader component. The loader component is possibly the simplest one so far. You just have to create a new component called loader.jsx. It is going to be a React arrow function component. And inside of here, we can import just one thing from ant design, and it's called a spin. Import spin from ant design. We're going to have a div that has a class name, equal to loader, and finally inside of there, we're going to have a spin. That is it. Now inside of here, inside of the exchange, we can import loader like this as a default import from loader, and we can simply return it like this. Now we can copy this return loader, make a search across our code, and search wherever we are doing loading ... There we go, 4 times. So we're simply going to replace this with our loader. But of course, we also have to import it. So we're going to say import loader from, and that's going to be /loader. And let's repeat that process 3 more times. So at the top, that's going to be import loader from /loader. And then instead of the loading, we're going to show loader 2 more times. In here, just below, import loader from loader and return loader. And one last time in news, import loader from /loader. And finally, we can return it right here. There we go. All of our loadings are done. And the exchanges should work as well. So let's save it and check it out. Let's go to our localhost 3000. Let's see, it says export default re-exported as exchanges was not found in exchanges. So let's fix that really quickly. And we can fix that if we go to index and inside of here, export default as exchanges. Let's go to exchanges and looks like I copied the wrong thing. This should be const exchanges. And then at the bottom, we should say export default exchanges. This should already be done correctly for you if you simply copied the exchanges. Now let's finally save it and check it out. We have one more error, which is saying that we cannot resolve loader in the homepage. So let's check that out. If we go to our homepage, we're trying to import loader from just loader. That's my bad. It should be /loader instead. So let's save it. And there we go. As you can see, here we can see all of the exchanges and we can look at the data coming from them. Great. Exchanges are usually the places where you can trade cryptocurrencies. Binance is the most popular one, but there are a lot of other great ones as well. Great. Let's see if we can check out the loading. There we go. There was a split-second loading at the middle of the screen. And that's one more thing I forgot to say about Redux Toolkit. Once you actually fetch the data and you want to go back to see it, it's not making another API call. It already has the data saved in the cache, so it's going to load instantly. So we've came to the end of this video. I'm sure you learned a lot about Redux Toolkit, fetching data from RapidAPIs, and generally building an application about cryptocurrencies. But most importantly, you should have learned a lot about React itself, how components work, how you can map over different components to write efficient and not duplicate code, and how to generally separate everything into components. The last part we of course have to do is to deploy this project on the web. So let's do that right away. To deploy the project, we're going to use Netlify. You can log in or sign up if you don't have an account already. Once you log in, you can go to Sites and then scroll down. In here, you can simply drag and drop your build folder. To build our React application, you can go to View, Terminal, press Ctrl+C, and then Y, and finally run npm run build. This is going to take a few moments, but after that, you should notice a build folder is going to appear on your file explorer. Once it's built, you can simply right-click the build folder and click Reveal in File Explorer. Then you can head back to Sites Netlify and simply drag and drop the folder right inside of here. It took just a few seconds. Before checking it out, let's go to Domain Settings, Options, Edit Site Name, and then in here you can put whatever name you'd prefer. I've already used Cryptoverse, so let's use Crypto App React. There we go, and you can click right there to check it out. Our crypto project is now finished and live on the web. You can share this link with your friends, showcase your app, or generally use it yourself to find new and interesting information about cryptocurrencies. It can be extremely useful for checking out the charts or reading the latest cryptocurrency news. I hope you learned a lot by following this video. If you did, definitely make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and let me know what would you like to see in the future. And for the end, I would like to say a huge thank you to RapidAPI, not only for sponsoring this video, but also for creating such a phenomenal software that we use today. We use just one of their hundreds of thousands of APIs to create a phenomenal application. Basically, every single API in here can be used to create a new and interesting application. Definitely make sure to check them out. The link is in the description. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.